The United States dollar has lost more than 12% of its value against a basket of major currencies since early 2025. That is not a number from a financial report. That is a change in what your savings can actually buy. Most people have not felt this as a single event. They have felt it as a general sense that things cost more, that money goes less far, that something has quietly shifted without anyone clearly naming what it was. Here is what it was, and here is what it is doing to your savings right now. Not just your spending, but the money you have already set aside. By the end of this video, you will understand the specific mechanism by which a weaker dollar erodes savings you have not touched, the historical precedent for how far it can go, and the one adjustment that protects what you have already built. If you have watched coverage of currency markets and felt like it was information for someone else, traders, investors, people with foreign bank accounts, you are not alone. Dollar weakness sounds abstract. It sounds like something that affects exports and imports. Not your savings account, not your retirement fund. That gap between how dollar weakness gets covered and what it actually does to the money sitting in your accounts. That gap is the subject of this video, because here is what the coverage almost never says directly. Every dollar you have saved is worth exactly what the dollar itself is worth, not what the number says, what the purchasing power behind the number represents. And when the dollar weakens, the purchasing power behind every dollar you own weakens with it, whether you have moved any money or not. If your savings account shows $50,000 today, and the dollar loses 10% of its real purchasing power, you effectively hold the equivalent of $45,000 in yesterday's money. The number on your screen has not changed. The pile of things it can buy has. That is not a theoretical risk. It is currently happening, and most people have no mechanism for seeing it, because the balance itself does not move. Here is the reframe. A weakening dollar does not just make imports more expensive. It quietly reduces the real value of every dollar you have already saved, without touching your account balance. This is not the same problem as prices rising at the store. Store price increases are visible. You can see them at checkout. What a weaker dollar does to savings is invisible at the account level. The number stays the same. The purchasing power behind it quietly shrinks. This matters differently than inflation, and it works alongside inflation, compounding the effect. Inflation raises prices. A weaker dollar raises prices and reduces the real value of the savings you were counting on to meet those higher prices. Most people are managing for one of these forces. Right now, they are facing both simultaneously. Here is the mechanism. The dollar's value relative to other currencies is set by supply and demand. For dollars in global markets, when demand falls because foreign governments, central banks, and institutional investors reduce their holdings, the dollar weakens against the currencies those buyers prefer. The Peterson Institute for International Economics tracked the dollar's performance against major trading partner currencies from early 2025 through early 2026. The dollar declined by approximately 12 to 15% on a trade-weighted basis during that period. That decline translates directly to purchasing power. A 12% decline means every $100 from 12 months ago is now worth approximately $88 in real terms. The historical precedent is severe. During the 1970s, when the dollar went off the gold standard in 1971, followed by two oil shocks, the dollar lost approximately 33% of its purchasing power over a decade. Americans who held savings in cash and traditional savings accounts saw real erosion that never appeared in their statements. The nominal balance held. The real balance did not. The Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis published research showing that $1 of purchasing power in 1970 held the equivalent purchasing power of approximately 33 cents by 1985. A savings account that held $10,000 throughout that period and earned standard interest rates still left the depositor with significantly less real wealth than they started with. The erosion was invisible at the account level. That is the point. Here is what makes the current dollar decline specifically relevant to savings. In a normal dollar decline cycle, rising import prices are the primary visible effect, but three additional mechanisms quietly compound the damage for savers. Specifically, first, dollar-denominated fixed income loses real value. A 3% interest rate on a savings account sounds positive. Against a 12% dollar decline, that 3% yield is a 9% real loss. Second, global purchasing power shrinks across everything you plan to buy. Imported goods, travel, and services priced in stronger currencies all become more expensive, not because the service costs more locally, but because your dollars buy fewer units of anything priced elsewhere. Third, retirement savings baselines shift without any change to your balance. Every retirement calculator assumes a relatively stable dollar. A sustained dollar decline rewrites the underlying math. The number you needed to retire comfortably in 2021 and the number you need today are materially different, even if nothing else in your life has changed. Here is the behavioral science layer. Shafir, Diamond, and Tversky published foundational research in 1997 on what they called money illusion, the systematic tendency to think about economic value in nominal terms rather than real terms. The research found that most people, when evaluating whether they are ahead or behind financially, anchor on the number in their account rather than on what that number can actually purchase. This is not a cognitive flaw. It is an efficiency strategy that works when the currency is stable. When the currency is not stable, money illusion becomes actively expensive. People feel financially unchanged because their balance is unchanged, but the economic ground beneath that number has shifted. The people who navigated the 1970s dollar decline most effectively were not tracking currency markets. They were the ones who had a clear picture of what their savings were actually worth in real terms, and who had positioned a meaningful portion of their assets in things that held value, regardless of what the dollar did. Here is the one move that gives you a clear picture of your exposure. In the next 24 hours, calculate the real purchasing power of your largest savings balance. Take the dollar amount and multiply it by 0.88. That is approximately what it was worth in real purchasing power 12 months ago. If that number feels meaningfully smaller than the account balance, you are experiencing money illusion in real time. The question is not whether to feel that difference. The question is whether your savings mix is positioned for it. Assets that held real value during previous dollar weakness cycles, inflation-linked securities, assets with intrinsic pricing power, and positions indexed to non-dollar benchmarks are not aggressive financial moves. They are the baseline defensive position for a period when the dollar itself is the variable. You do not need to restructure everything, but you need to know what percentage of your savings assumes the dollar stays stable, because that assumption is currently being tested. Most people will not do this calculation today. The number in their account looks fine. Nominally, it is fine. The question is what it actually buys. If this changed how you think about what your savings are worth right now, drop a comment. Do you think about savings in nominal or real terms? And if you have not subscribed yet, the next video in this series covers which specific asset categories have historically maintained real purchasing power through dollar weakness cycles. It is the part most financial advice skips. The number in your account has not changed. What it can buy has.